There we go. All right. Great. All right. So, tell us about some of your victories. Oh, wait, first of all, let's go around and share our names and where we're coming to this Zoom from today. So I'm Carolyn Dennis. I'm a pastor at Westminster Presbyterian Church in Greenwood, South Carolina, and my congregation has about 75 members, about 50 people in worship. Jeannie, how about you?
Well, that's really great because my congregation is Philadelphia Presbyterian Church, which is right below the airport in Atlanta. It's a old historic church. It's the second oldest church in Atlanta Presbytery. And we have about 75 members and we have 22 to 30 people on Sunday because most of my congregation is elderly and a lot of them are getting more and more homebound.
Yes, yes, understood. Thank you so much, Jeannie. Deborah, how about you? Tell us again who you are, where you are. Oh, you're going to have to unmute.
I'm Deborah Hafner Hubbard, and I'm the new Associate Presbyter of Tampa Bay Presbytery for Congregational Vitality. And I just came from a small church in Northern California.
Oh, well, welcome to the Southeast. All right. Samia.
I'm Samia Williams. I'm from Bayshore Presbyterian Church in Tampa. We are a smaller church, and similar to what has been said, our congregation is a little older, and we're looking for ways to grow the church. So on a Sunday, maybe there's 35 people worshiping, something like that.
Samia, thank you. And you're a ruling elder, yes?
I am an elder and I am on the outreach committee.
Excellent. Thank you. Thelma, how about you? Tell us again.
Yes, Lena, my name is Thelma. I'm from El Buen Vecino Presbyterian Church in Kissimmee, Florida, from the Santa Fe Presbytery. We're a small church, about 85 members in books. Mostly, I would say more than 60% of the congregation is elderly. And normally we gather maybe 50 in a Sunday, a good Sunday, if it's not a special Sunday.
All right. Thank you, Thelma. Vinod, where are you?
I am the solo pastor of Holy Trinity Presbyterian Church in North Fort Myers. I live in Fort Myers, so that's why when you asked first, Caroline, I said I'm from Fort Myers. Mine is also a small congregation, on record, 90 members, but we have a lot of visitors and friends during the winter months, when it is winter up north. For us in Florida, there is no winter.
Yes.
So during winter months, especially around February, March, our church attendance per week will swell up to 150, 170.
Wow.
Otherwise, during the rest of the year, beginning from now, May till November, we will be somewhere between 60 and 90.
Okay.
It keeps fluctuating. Yeah.
That's an interesting situation. I have all
That
sorts
is
of
right.
questions about that, Vinod. Alicia. We'll get Alicia back in just a minute. She's frozen. How about you, Bobby? Where are you?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was on my desktop, had to drop off and get on my phone because I didn't have a camera and mic set up. But I'm in Manning, South Carolina. Well, actually, the church is Somerton Presbyterian. And we have about 40 members, usually average about 20 in worship. Um, our struggle is declining membership, a lot of deaths, elderly congregation, like others have said. But I'm an elder. I'm clerk of session. My pastor asked me to join in and said this might be a great resource for us. So we're all ears.
Super, Bobby. Thank you for being here. I have a special place in my heart for you elders who are holding things together. Thank you. Leslie, how about you? Tell us where you are besides somewhere out in space.
Um, I'm Leslie Rondon and come from El Buen Vecino Presbyterian Church. Thelma and I go to the same church and we are in the same section. We are, like Thelma said, we are a small church, about 85 members, and on a good Sunday, we can have 100 with the visitors. And we are here because we want to learn how we can help our church to grow.
Excellent.
Basically, we're all kind of old people, and we need a lot of teenagers, youth, and children, young families in our congregation.
If only children, youth, and young families knew how much love was waiting for them at your church, they would just flock over there. Sounds
Yeah.
like you guys are ready to love on them and raise them up.
Yes.
Yes.
Alicia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Alicia DeMarter Presley. I am an associate for missional equipping we've just changed all of our acronyms and names in the national office. So I'm just going to say national office. I work with leader formation and development. And I am just grateful to be here. I love to be with you all because I get to hear where you all are, what you all need, how things are thriving where you are, and get to take that information back. So I'm here. I'm
Sweet.
glad to be here.
I love that the denomination has their ear in this room. So thank you for being here. Wonderful. So let's start. I heard some challenges in those introductions, but let's start with some victories. Where are you seeing some hope, some light, some constant faith? Where are things good?
Can I start with just sharing a few things that we're just starting to do in the church? Maybe it's helpful for the group. So I'm going to start with our biggest event. So last year, we are on the bay, which is a very nice place to be. We have high-rise buildings to the right, to the left. We have condos behind us. I mean, it's a nice place to be, but people living there, they walk by and they don't get into the church. So, and I want to make a correction. I am not currently an elder. I mean, my term finished. I'm just on the outreach. So we had an idea of making a yard sale in the church. It was the first time ever, and we decided to do this. So we bought the idea, and people started donating things that you don't need. Just bring it to church, make sure it's clean. It's, nothing, because we want to honor people with what we're offering. And of course, it's going to be a lot of work. And the biggest part of work is trying to price. So we decided no pricing. Everything, just lay it on table. So we have our the lawn that looks on the bay. We have a few stairs. We put stuff there, tables displayed. As you walk into the door, there's a big foyer. We put tables there. We had clothes racks hanging, everything you can think of. Clean, nice, organized. And we told everybody, no prices. Pick up what you want and pay what you can. This was our motto. We had yard signs on the front of the church and the back of the church. We had pamphlets that we went to the condos and gave them and said, put this in, we would put it on our website, YouTube. And people came. So this was last year. I'm talking about last year. People came. It was 2 days. It was Friday from 8 till noon, Saturday from 8 till noon. From 8 till 11, there's a nonstop of people coming in, just coming in. And as they come in, many of them would say, I live here, but I've never been into the church. So we open the sanctuary, we say, would you like to come in? This is this. And so we did this for those 2 days. And once the sale was over, yes, we did get some money, but that was not the main focus. But yes, we did get some money. But a couple who'd come to the sale came Sunday, and they've been with us for a year. So what we do is we plant seeds. And I told my committee, everybody knew, don't go around looking at whoever is taking anything. We're not after things or money. Just welcome them. And we welcome them and come in and, I'd go. So this year we had it just the last weekend and we did the same thing. Put everything out, pick what you want, pay what you can. And 4 people who came last year came again this year, and we recognize them and they recognize, we've seen you, how are you? And again, we're planting seeds. We don't know where the Lord is going to take this and put it. And I had a lady and her husband. She came and she looked at the sanctuary like, can I come in? I said, please. I opened the door and she said, I live in this neighborhood. I have never walked on this church. And I said, come in. And she went and sat at the very first row, bowed her head quietly for 5 minutes and got up. If we were, if this, what we can offer just for a person, 5 minutes of joy and solitude and connection with God, we did it, So that's one of the themes I'm sharing with you. If this is something that you can do in your church, do it. Don't worry about who's taking what, or it's for just people to come in and out and so forth.
Samia, thank you. Before you go to another topic, thank you for sharing that one. I just, all sorts of little nuggets in there just were beautiful lights. I wonder if anybody has a comment on that story from that victory from Samia, or if you have any questions about how that came about or anything for Samia.
I just want to say that was a great initiative by your church to collect things from neighbors, whatever they don't want, and then make it available for free for those who want it. And thank you for sharing that. Maybe we should also try something like that in our locality. My question is, sometimes there are people, I have noticed this while I was pastoring in Rochester. We used to have yard sales during a certain month of the year, especially spring. So every family would place whatever they don't want or whatever they want to sell off in front of their yards. So there are some people who just go from city to city or town to town buying from the yard sale, and they do it as a business. I don't know whether you have such kind of people in Tampa. So my question is, if somebody comes like that and says, okay, I want to take these 10 items, 20 items, they are going to make money out of it, and they are coming there just for business sake. So how would you restrict those kind of people?
I don't know, but my gut feeling or my impulse was, don't. I would not restrict them. If this is their livelihood, if this is the way they need to make money, I would say you're very welcome to the church. Just come in, take what you need. If you'd like to leave a donation, that would be fine. If you can't, it's fine too. It's unconditional love. This is the way I see it. If they walk away and say, maybe a month later say, wow, we've been to that church and they were so generous and they just trusted us. This is enough for us as a witness, you know. I don't, and people sometimes, last year and this year, people came in and never went to pay. People came in and fixed stuff and just took it and went out the door. And I said, I'm glad you came. Thank you for coming. Come again. Because them walking into the church is what we want. Them breaking that barrier of this is a sanctuary, this is a church. Maybe they've never been to a church. Just this first step in for me is wonderful. Next time it might be in a service. Next time you never know. So our foundational law was don't bother. It's not the things, it's not the money. It's telling the people you're welcome, please come in, we love you. Just with
Samuel,
no
we've been
conditions.
at my church, we've been preaching the six great ends of the church, and in 2 weeks we'll have the sixth one, which is the exhibition of the kingdom of God to the world, or the kingdom of heaven to the world. And it sounds like that day of redistributing wealth was a great day of exhibiting the kingdom of heaven to the world. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Sammy, did you want to share one more with us, or you want to let somebody else
And
share
maybe
a
somebody,
victory?
I don't want to, let's go around and maybe I can say something later.
Excellent, excellent. I love when we get to hear people's victories. We're like, oh wait, we do something. You know, we think like, oh, I don't have any victories, but then we're like, oh wait, we also do something cool. So, um, where have you seen these victories? Where have you seen God at work? The goodness of the Lord in the land of the living.
At El Buen Vecino, every year we host the summer camp, and family with kids and teenagers have come to our congregation because of that. We open the summer camp to everybody in the community, every family in the community, and we encourage the congregation to bring their friends. That way we can have a lot of kids. And every year we have the summer camp, and after that, some kids always stay or they keep visiting our church. Right now, we are in our community surrounding the church is changing. And that's one of the things that we would like to do, like open our church to the new community, because they are building houses all around our church that in the past used to be empty lots. And now we're going to have new families. And that will be one of the big challenges that we're going to be facing for the, by the end of 2026, 2027. How we going to welcome the new families and what we can offer them, for them to come visit us and stay with us.
So Leslie, one of the things, and what a exciting opportunity. One of the things that had to happen at my church, because a lot of time when I got here, a lot of basically I'd ask folks what their goals were, what their dreams, what their vision was, and it all kind of boiled down to we need more members. So when you say we want to grow, we need more members. We need more members who can do the thing, do the tasks of the church. We need more members who can financially support the church. That's really what I was hearing. And I recognized that was kind of the message people who were visiting were actually going to hear was we need you. Not we are here because you need the church. And so one of the things we had to spend several years working on was being the church. Which I'm saying I think I hear y'all are being the church, but we are, we had to spend several years gathering for Bible study, a couple of different times a week and in different ways with different groups of the congregation. Worship, focusing on our worship, focusing on fellowship and having fun together. Just all the things that you'd see in Acts 2 that make the church, right? Learning, listening to the teachings of the apostles and worshiping together and breaking bread together, all those things. And then we found that as we were strengthened in doing those things, people wanted to come to church to do those things with us, right? Those new people were looking for a place where people were studying the Bible. Those new people were looking for a place where they could worship. Um, and then the next thing that became kind of a challenge for us was we have gotten a lot of new people. And as they come, as you get you have a group of 8 Presbyterian women and you get 2 new Presbyterian women in that circle, are those 8 people who know everybody's stories, are they going to welcome the new stories of the new people and engage them in the same way? I mean, thinking about that. So that, on beyond just how do we reach them, how do we get them in the door, but how do we, once they're in, let them know they belong, right? So then are they able to offer ideas in this congregation that maybe have been so small, so there's lots of challenges as those 1, 2, 3 new people come in. How are they going to get integrated into this really tight, smaller congregation? I think that's one of our smaller congregation challenges.
Yeah,
Um,
I've been at this small church for 5 years. I came from a bigger church, and for all I heard for about the first 6 months was I'd ask a question. Well, we used to blah blah blah
mm,
blah, because we used to have 25 youth, and we used to have blah blah. And finally, I said, I don't want to hear that anymore. I don't care. I don't care what you used to do. What are you doing now? And what are we going to do in the future? Quit
hmm
looking backwards, because it's never going to happen again. We're in a community it's commercial. We're surrounded by, we got Delta Airlines maintenance facilities and all kinds of things around us. And we're this little country white clapboard church out in the middle of what used to be dairy farming country, which is now a huge commercial enclave, and we're surrounded by Hispanic Pentecostal churches. We have one who actually meets at our church, and we have no one that literally we can draw from to come
This is a reminder.
from the
Muted.
close neighborhood. So we have to look elsewhere. We have to do things differently.
This is a reminder.
And that is
Muted.
really hard for people who've been, I've got people who were born in the church 60 years ago. I got people who were born in the church 90 years ago. And it's like, well, how do we get it back? I said, you don't get it back. We have to look forward.
right.
I always say, I bet half you people are hanging on here because you've got a free cemetery plot. A big cemetery. And that's where all your family's buried. But we got to look forward. But with all, I'm impressed by the fact that they are passionate about mission, community mission, global mission, but community mission especially. I mean, we deal honestly with people who need housing and clothes and food and all kinds of stuff, and they are very, very generous. And I think that's one of the things that encourages me, because I'm not going to get young people and children joining our church. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to get a lot of new members. So we have to be church together basically until they're all gone.
There you go.
Another.
So
how
that's
do I nurture this congregation so that we are strong as this small little body of Christ, and we can do what we can do for the community around us? So
amen.
that's our mission.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's a very important, we all, again, being small, we think we got to grow, but in numbers. That's another thing I say to my congregation is, how do you really want to grow? Do we want to grow more Christ-like, right? So that's what we want to do is grow more
Because we're not going
Christ-like.
to grow in numbers. We're not.
Right, right. And so that and if you can take that anxiety off the table,
Right.
then you've got some and I'm thinking Deborah's listening in and saying there's a vital congregation, right? As she
Yeah,
works with
yeah, indeed.
congregational
And
vitality.
and that kind of segues into a story I can tell from Northern California. My husband is an ELCA minister. We have a mixed marriage. Um, and I took a joint ELCA Presbyterian church in Northern California that we didn't even think that existed, but it mirrored our marriage. Um, this church came together before our congregations or our denominations were in full communion. So it was early mid 70s. So it was already in their DNA to be ecumenical. But there was only like 20 people there. And we took it on a wing and a prayer, a shared call for part-time, and actually added 41 members in the 10 years we were there, which doesn't sound like many members, but with starting with 20. But what we did was, and this is where I think the focus should not be so much on membership, but on what we can do for the community. What we ended up doing, we got a young family in there. She was a horticulturalist and her passion was garden. We had a small church garden, a family resource center next door. So we used our campus. We had a Head Start school on the other side of us. We took our church garden that was supporting the family resource center, who ended up leaving. And we took that and took empty Sunday school rooms and made it into a farm stand. And lo and behold, within our first year, we added $80,000 back into the community with local artisans that had nowhere else to sell their pottery, their art, and their produce. So we had all kinds of things going on. We had to make sure our non-tax status didn't get compromised. We had to go through all this nonprofit stuff. But this young family took it over, and lo and behold, all kinds of people walked into our church that never walked in before. We were in the heart of the mix, and we kept winning all these community awards for what we were doing, bringing new energy, new life. And then she was able to start teaching these kids, and a Montessori school then moved in next door. The Montessori and Head Start kids learned how to do nutrition, how to grow food. I mean, it was just phenomenal. So now it's an art school, folk school. And then alongside of that, my husband and I were able to start an interfaith contemplative spiritual community, doing classes like Without Buddha, I Couldn't Be a Christian, done by Dwayne Bidwell at Claremont and stuff like that, to really offer, because so many people thought to be Christian meant you were about hating gays and hating people. And we got threatened during George Floyd for doing all these anti-racism workshops. But the community knew we were vibrant, welcoming, and inclusive. And then I'll shut up.
Wow, thank you so much. That's a wonderful story and such victory. Um, I want to I'd like to build on some of what I'm hearing from Leslie and Thelma, from Samia, um, about about the hard work that I hear y'all doing in your congregations, and not just you, but the other folks you're in communion with. Um, that piece of waiting for the Lord and really letting that sail take you. I feel like sometimes we work so hard and we don't feel like we're seeing the results from our labor, but letting the Lord lead is so, so important. and I don't know if y'all have read the book Sailboat Church, but I will always recommend that. It really talks about churches that are rowboat churches, and you're working so hard rowing that church, and that you need to put down your oars and raise the sails and let the Spirit lead. Um, it's amazing when you can sit back and go, oh my gosh, I just get to be a part of this crew and hold on while the Spirit blows, right? Um, and just be a part of that. Um, so, and I bet Leslie and Thelma at your summer camp, you can do that. You can sit back. I know you work hard for it, but you sit back and go, "Oh, that was a magical moment we couldn't have authored ourselves," you know. And at the sale when that woman comes and prays in the front row, you couldn't have authored that. But God did, and you just made yourself available for that. So that's the sort of thing that I find a lot of encouragement in, is setting the stage and letting God do the acting. So what else? What other victories? Or we're kind of at this point where we can also add in some challenges. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to ask us to kind of move towards some brainstorming about what we'd like to see on Tuesday nights in our Small and Mighty, and maybe who some of the folks we'd like to hear from could be. So,
Can I ask the name of the book again?
Sailboat Church, and it is by, who can help me with this?
Joan Gray.
She was a moderator.
Joan
Say it
Gray.
again.
Joan
Joan
Gray.
Gray. Thank you.
Oh, great.
Joan
From Atlanta.
Gray. Yes,
Awesome.
yes. It's an excellent book.
I was
Carolyn?
going to say, she was talking about being a Matthew 25 church. And yes, sometimes I'm amazed myself. We are a small congregation, like I said, almost, I would say, right, Leslie, about 50-60%, they're elderly already. We're talking about in the late 60s up to, well, we just have a member that passed away. He's in the glory of God. He was 99, 1 week shy from 100. So we have elderly people in our church. So it's hard to get them to work with us because they don't have that same energy. Some of them, they get sick very often. And it amazes me that our church has a pantry, and the number of people that the church serves in a month with just the small resources that we have, because we don't receive anything from the city, anything from the state. I have myself try to register the church so they can have a food drive at least once a month, because where the church is at, yes, there's new communities, but still is a lot of Hispanic ethnic communities in the area, a lot of people that work, and they had lost a lot of their incomes right now, or their income is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they come to the church looking for a little bit so they can match, at least have something through the end of the week or the next paycheck. We don't see them coming to the church, but the church is still serving them. When we do the garage sales, we sell everything for $1. And sometimes that dollar is like a whole bag of clothes, a whole bag of sheets, whatever they need. So we don't make anything out of it, but it's just like a cash for people to come, because the people say garage sale and they want to come and see what there's there. And we serve food, we do, but still we need people to come, because somehow we know that Lord has everything in his hands and the mission is going to continue. But we need people to come and continue the mission, because we cannot count with the people that they're leaving us to be in the presence of the Lord. Some of us get tired because we have right now, we're like at the 80-20, I would say the 90-10.
Yeah.
10% doing the job of the rest of it. So our concern and our challenge right now is motivating people within our church, the ones that they're not involved, to be involved in what we're doing, because they see it. for some reason they don't get involved. Maybe because they're busy, maybe they don't want to get that compromise because then I'm gonna be has to be there. Because right now, and we have to say, most of the members they come on Sunday and then they leave, they don't show again into the next Sunday. And that's happening every single church, Presbyterian, evangelicals, whatever church, you're gonna see that. There's a lot of people that they're coming, like coming to mass, they come into the service and they leave, and then you don't see them again. We need help for something. Leslie, every Sunday is asking people to lead the service. Every single Sunday. But it's hard for people to come, and why? My question is why it is so hard if we're getting so much benefit when we come and join together, because they're there with us on Sunday and they enjoy the service. We are trying to not modify because the liturgy is the same, but bringing more contemporary music, being the variety of having music for our countries too in our service, including those old hymns that are the base of our faith. And it is hard to get people to get used to it, but the church has to reform themselves because we don't have the same communities that we had 30 years ago. And we ask why there's not many people coming to these traditional churches and they're going to Pentecostal churches and everything. Is because they go there and they have music and they enjoy the music. And because they catch up by the music, they stay there and they listen to the word. And they have so big and large youth groups. We have a church that is renting in our location, and their youth group is about 30 kids. Just the middle schoolers and high schoolers, and they need to meet at a separate time because they cannot do it at the same time of their service because they're a large group. So what are we missing? What we are not catching? What are we lacking in spreading the word? And it's not about having numbers, because it's better to have small and quality than a large that they don't believe, or they just come there for compromise or whatever. But still, we need to do a better job trying to spread the word, because that's the only way people are going to know the Lord that we love and the Lord that we preach, and the testimony of the greatest thing that he has done for us, in us, and within us as communities of faith. That we are not a clan, that we're exclusive. No, we're inclusive. We want you in shorts with your tattoos. We want you with your earrings. We want you with your pink or purple hair. We don't care. God doesn't care. Right. We need it. How can we convince people that that's the people that we are? How can we spread that? That is what really catches me. And that's our challenge.
So Thelma, I hear that, and unfortunately I got on after Vinod left us. He's had to leave early, but just so you all know, this recording is going to be available. Will be sent out by the Synod, so you have the record of our questions and the resources that we heard. And my plug is not working for some reason, and I'm afraid I'm about to lose you guys.
Yeah, you're occasionally freezing up.
Am I?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm not sure why
it's like we can hear you, but your mouth is not in sync.
Carolyn, I added
so much fun.
I added a resource to the chat for everyone.
Thank you, and that chat will be shared as well. So I think Thelma, Alicia's answer with the resource might be one of those things to help with that. Let's, because I don't want to jump in and offer you an answer. I hear your struggle. And I don't have the answer for you, but I do know, I love your faith that God is at work and God is reforming, and that's the prayer, reform us. So Mike, let's turn just with the last 14 minutes. Hopefully we have. I hate if my computer dies, I will have lost you. Um, but with these last 14 minutes that we have, who would you like to hear? I do know that we are going to, in August, we're going to hear um, Joe. I've suddenly lost, I don't have my paper in front of me. Joe Evans, who's the pastor at First Presbyterian in Marietta, Georgia. And that's a very large church. But here's one of my things. I feel like the church needs to that small churches need to be in conversation and communion with larger churches. And what Joe is doing is he's going to bring us something about um, how our internet presence the larger church internet presence is helping with the mission of God. And doing that through smaller churches and other venues around the world from this one church um, in Marietta, Georgia. So he and his associate pastor are going to be with us to talk about that. And what I'm hoping is that we're going to hear some of these good ideas about how larger churches are really supporting those smaller churches in interesting ways, and even how smaller churches, whether it's one denomination and another, or as my testimony for me would be about the 12 small Presbyterian churches that are in my cluster and the ways we work together. So how are we getting partners would be Deborah says yes, do that. So those are some questions. So that's what we're going to be doing in August. But that's the only thing I've got on the books. So what else would you like to hear um, and who should we hear from if you know somebody that you'd like me to get on here with us?
We could probably talk about we've just reorganized in Greater Atlanta Presbytery into regions, and we have cheerleaders. I'm one of the cheerleaders, 3 cheerleaders for the East region of our presbytery, and our East region is mostly small churches, very few large churches at all. So we're having meetings together, and we're sharing information, and so we could talk about how we cluster or form groups of other smaller congregations in our area, I think, and how we can maximize our resources. I think that would be good
Great.
to talk
Thank
about.
you. Thank you. That would be good. Bobby, what does your congregation need? What would you like to hear about?
Well, this has been real good, and I think more of the same. What are other churches doing? Um, and just the things I've just in this little bit of time picked up on. I think things that we can try to expand on what we're doing. Um, I like some of the things that everybody said about, it's not just about the numbers. We that of course, that's a concern, that's a challenge, but put it in God's hands. That's that to me. Just I would like some of our folks to be able to participate in this and hear. We're not the only church struggling uh, with membership and giving. So um, I don't know. I'll try to wrap my head around it and think maybe next time I'll have some ideas. This is my first, so
Super. So the way it
I
usually
I
goes, Bobby, is we usually have a speaker for most of the time, so we don't always get to
gotcha.
tell these stories. So we could
Gotcha.
add that in, but yeah. Who else?
I'm gonna ask something, and I'm not sure that I'm saying it just right, but I think Pastor Simpson just brought something up about the church, the traditional church, and we used to be, and this is how we've always done it. We do the same. Our little church has people who've been there. We've only been there for 4 years. And trying to maybe bring something, like Thelma was saying, a little contemporary music for the younger people to attract them. It's very hard to do the change or the transition, or what can we do so that the church appeals to, yes, us, the old people who want to sing those hymns that we grew up, but again, the younger generation. So change that would help growth. Maybe this is the topic I'm look forward. What changes to help grow, to attract more people, younger people, people who have different tastes than what we grew up with in the 1990s. I mean, these are 20. So if somebody can tackle.
I would urge all of you, except for Leslie. I think Leslie's in a community where they're going to get a whole bunch of new people moving in, and they have a true outreach evangelism kind of opportunity. But I would urge all of you, because this was taught to me some years ago by a church growth consultant that we brought into a big church. He said, quit thinking about getting bigger and think about nurturing the folks you've got. If you nurture the folks you've got and you meet their needs, you will do well. And for smaller congregations, I think we really, especially if we're in communities like mine, where there isn't any opportunity to go out, like in Leslie's community, and say, oh, look, here's 20 new houses. Let's go do some evangelism sorts of activities here. Nurture the folks you've got. And you'll be amazed at what happens. Anyway, that's my sermon for tonight.
Okay, I've got to piggyback on that. I've got to piggyback on that because I think we also miss the opportunity to share the good news of what we're doing and how we're doing it even within the church. So when you're thinking about that nurturing, how are you inviting others in that might be in the same age and stage, right? If you're bringing somebody in to talk about wills or, final life stages, or even how to keep from falling, right? Who else are you sharing that information with so that they can participate as well?
Right.
Right. Because growing doesn't always, even if you grow in numbers, it doesn't always mean families with children, right? Maybe you're going to be the largest congregation of people, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right? Because that is a large denominator, it's a large demographic, right? So just rethinking what that looks like and inviting people into whatever you're doing. Similarly, I would also say you don't have to do it alone. Also think about who else is doing something similar, right? When someone talked about that we had a school on one side, we had this on the other. Like, what are the opportunities to partner with other people that are doing similar work and join in together, right? It might be another church in the denomination. It might be another church that's not in our denomination. It might not even be a church. It might be a community group. It might be somebody who has volunteer hours. You might find out which high school is doing volunteer hours and needs those kids to do something, right? And they might come in and help do something in your food pantry, in your clothes pantry, or in your church or in your ministry. So thinking outside the normal box of how we do things also increases exposure, but also meets a need in the community in a way that might build or grow in a different way. It might not look like people always showing up on Sunday, right?
Yep.
It might.
Who else? What other ideas? Any people you'd like to hear from?
Anybody else interested in mergers of
Church
congregations?
mergers? I'd love to talk. Yeah, I'd love to hear about that. it may not be for my church, but I know some
Right.
other churches, that, and so I'd love to hear how people are doing that. It's hard.
Well, I have one thing that we're going to be searching for a pastor, and it seems to be quite a challenge for small churches. The search process
Yeah,
is
because
that.
mostly you're talking about part-time contract calls.
Yeah,
Mhm.
You can't afford a full-time
Mhm.
installed pastor anymore.
yeah.
Mhm.
But yet everybody says that that's what we got to have to begin bringing more members, right? So which comes first? Yeah,
With the
you got to have the
2.5
yeah.
kids and the yeah.
Because you've
Yeah.
always done it that way.
And they're magically going to bring in folks.
Yeah. It's like we used to say, yeah, everybody wants the young male who's just graduated from seminary with a wife and 2.3 kids and a dog.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they think that if they do that, the church will just magically blossom with new people and children and youth. Yeah, right. I got to get out of that way of thinking.
When
One
your
of
current youth group starts at 65, right?
one of the things that I would love to hear about, if anybody has a resource for it, is I think we Presbyterians for many decades were used to raising our own next Presbyterians. We gave birth to them, we taught them, we raised them up. And so we didn't really learn how to evangelize outside of our own families, right? So what does evangelism look like? What do we even know what the good news is? Right? I mean, we're like, okay, here's a system. We baptize you, you go to preschool, in elementary school, we'll give you a Bible you can read, and middle school will confirm you, and so we have a system, right? No, but who are we telling you about? What is this good news? And how do we share about Jesus? Um, in a world that's looking for that. And I think some of that, what I'm hearing is, that's what Sammy has done. We're showing you Jesus. Jesus says, I got clothes, take them. So some of it is, I think we Presbyterians are a little more comfortable with the showing as opposed to the telling.
Mhm.
But that's one of the things that I've found as a pastor to equip my people to say, we found Jesus and he's over, he's right here, of course, yes, but also, there's a group of people over here who are hanging out with him and trying to follow him, and so come and do that with us. So yeah, I'd love to hear from somebody about how do we teach Presbyterians to be evangelists, good news tellers. One of the things that I see in at my church, and I wonder if you see it too, is we are reaching the not so much the unchurched, although that's true. And that's the other thing is I want somebody to teach me how to, take a 30-year-old who's never opened the Bible, doesn't know, Old Testament, New Testament, et cetera, et cetera. How do I do Bible with them? When they don't know, again, church ways, and I mean all these things. And um, but we're getting a lot of unchurched, never been churched, a lot of dechurched people are coming back because we're not the church that was mean to them, you know? So we're getting a lot of dechurched folks. So then how's ministry different with dechurched folks? Just as y'all were talking about, how is ministry different with a congregation of all 70 and over people, you know? So that's how's that? So would you guys do me a favor since we are at 8 o'clock? If you think of anybody, you're like, oh, I know somebody who's really good at doing that evangelism thing. How do you talk to other folks? And that could be anybody from a denominational person to a youth in your church who's great at bringing everybody, their friends along.
Sure, if
Or
Joan Gray would be willing to talk to us at some point. I don't know how to get hold of her anymore, but um, she's the author of The Sailboat Church, the book we were talking about.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
she's retired, and I don't I think she's in Atlanta somewhere. You might.
I will make a note and see if we can get her because that would be pretty cool. That would
Okay.
be.
Now, our presbyter Aisha is on sabbatical.
Mhm.
So it's Julie Ferguson or Andy James, the stated clerk, but they can probably tell you how to get hold of her and just ask her if she'd be willing to talk to us one time. She disappeared. So, yeah, just I would email Andy James, the stated clerk, and
Yes, Andy and
say,
I are friends. He's a great
yeah,
supporter of the
can
small church.
do you know how to get in contact with John Gray and
Yeah.
see? Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah. So what I'm asking y'all to do for me is send me an email if you have, an idea of somebody, and I will send that. I'll have that sent to when we distribute everything from this meeting. Because I'd really love to get some things on the rest of the calendar for the rest of 2026. So, sound good?
Yeah. Thank you. I
Thank
enjoyed
you
it so
So
guys.
much
much
for
time.
facilitating this. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you.
it's my joy to be with you guys. I do unfortunately have to tell you that I am not going to be able to meet with you guys in June and July. So we are going to take a little summer break and we'll come back in August with Joe Evans from First Marietta. You guys are going to love him. So,
Sounds good.
okay, great.
Good.
Y'all
Thank
be
you.
well.
Bye.
Bless you.
God bless you.
Thank you.